The show. Hi, I'm Randy Jeffers, and we are live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, we have a special show for you today. You want to grab a notepad and a pen because you're going to want to take notes. We have with us a special guest, an old friend of mine from Denver, Colorado, the mentor to millions, Mr. Jack Zufeld. Jack, welcome.
Hi, glad to be with you again. Finally, I finally get to connect with you again. That makes me happy.
Well, we go back a couple of decades, I guess, more years than we want to talk about probably. But, Jack, one of the things that I think both you and I have in common is that we've had a chance to know personally a number of the great motivators, the motivational speakers of our time, like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and there's just go on and on. There's lots of them. But there's this whole cottage industry that's been developed around motivation and success. And one of the things that I've always admired about you, and I think what makes you head and shoulders above all these success trainers that we have out there, is that you tell the truth about it. A lot of things in that world doesn't work, and you call them on it, and then you share the things that work. Tell us about that.
It kind of got me in trouble because the self-help industry, the leaders, the teachers, trainers did not like that. Some of them did, like Jack Canfield and Brian Tracy and Mark Victor Hansen. They endorsed me. In fact, they're on the cover of my book giving me a testimonial.
Absolutely.
But there were others that did not like it because I'm telling the world that what they're teaching doesn't work. And they got kind of upset about it. How dare you go against the wisdom of the ages? And I'm going, I don't know. This didn't exist. What you teach didn't exist during the time of the pyramids, and yet they still built pyramids. So how's that possible?
Yeah.
And the new knowledge that they started with in the 1940s was a bunch of rah-rah stuff, and some of it was good, and some of it was just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And I come along saying, that doesn't work. And if it did, you should all be skinny, and you should all be wealthy, and you should all be happily married, and and healthy, and in shape, and making all the money you need. But you're not. So why not? Why not? Because you've been taught by these gurus.
Yeah.
All you got to do is do goal setting.
Yeah.
All you got to do is read self-help books. All you got to do is this and this and this, and they lay out all these recipes for success. And I asked people all over the world, did you do those things? And they said, yes. I said, well, then tell me where you're successful. Not yet. Well, when's yet? Randy, you did all the things that I teach in your life. I know a little bit about your background, and you did those things, but you didn't read my book first.
Nope.
My book didn't even exist when you and I first met.
That's right.
And so did a lot of people. Clear back since the beginning of the world, people were successful without all the motivational baloney that's being taught. So I went back to the basics. The DNA of Success is the name of my book. I went back to the basics that causes everybody to be successful in anything, including a little baby learning how to walk. It's inside of all of us, and it's not in some motivational book. It's not in some seminar. It's not in some speaker. Not even in me. I can't make anybody successful. I can just teach them what they need to be and do to be successessful.
Well, that's interesting you bring up the little baby, because all of us become successful at walking, don't we? I mean, we're sort of not built for that from the beginning, because we fall down a lot, but for some reason we overcome it and we end up walking, and we get successful at it. What are some of the things, Jack, that don't work?
Well, let's start with the granddaddy of them all, goal setting.
Yeah.
That's been around longer than you and I've been alive.
Yes.
And I ask my audiences around the world, raise your hands if you've written down goals. They all raise their hands. So tell me, and I'll run down the audience with a microphone and say, how many of them did you get? And my research has shown, from live audience as well as written responses to my research, 8 out of 10 things that they listed on a piece of paper called goals didn't happen.
Yeah.
2 in 10 did, 8 did not. That's an 80% failure rate.
Yeah.
That's not okay in any business or in any endeavor. 80% failure rate's not okay. So I started trying to figure out, well, why? Because what I learned is what people write down on a piece of paper. It's nice. I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. I want to be married. I want to be happily married. I want to be a great parent. All the things they list. But why didn't they get them? 2 they did, and 8 they did not. Why? When I discovered that, it got me kind of popular. It got me on 2000 radio and television talk shows. It got me on the Today Show. It made my book a bestseller, which is now in 15 languages.
My goodness.
Because it's teaching the truth. And then you and I have our main mentor, a guy named Jesus Christ.
Yes.
He said, if you know the truth, it'll set you free.
That's right.
So I add to that 2 sentences, or 2 words, if you know the truth and embrace it. So that's 3. And embrace it, it'll set you free.
Yeah, you have to do a little more than just knowing, right? You have to take some action on the truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can, I, for example, know calculus works, but I can't do calculus. So that doesn't help me. And here's another thing that better even yet than the little 1-year-old trying to learn to walk. Everybody relates to this concept. When you were a teenager, remember when you wanted a driver's license and a car?
Absolutely.
Did you write it down? Did anybody write down at age 15, I will get a driver's license?
I did.
We couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yep.
And we all got one. And we all then get a car. Nowhere did we write it down on a piece of paper and call it a goal.
That's right.
So what I have learned is that goal setting is a waste of time if an 80% failure rate, and the things that you want with all your heart, you don't need to write down. You can't get them out of your head. It's like the first time I met my wife, Marcy, it was a blind date. And I knocked on the door and saw her for the first time, and I was there to do her a favor because her roommate said that she wasn't dating the right kind of guys, and maybe I could help her. So I went there to save her soul. I didn't care what she looked like. I was on a little mission to save this woman. Well, as soon as I saw her, my motive changed. And I thought, wow, I really like this. She's good looking. So we went to dinner, and we had one of the best conversations I've ever had. For 6 hours, we sat in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, I did not go home after that and say, Marcy will be my wife. But 6 months later, she was. I never had to write down, I will call Marcy, I will be on a date with her, I will date her 6 times this month. I didn't have to write anything down. I couldn't get her out of my mind.
So, Jack, let me ask you a question. After that 6 hours, how many hours was it before you called her again?
The next morning.
Yes.
The first thing I did was say, that was one of the best experiences of my life. I hope you enjoyed it. And she assured me that she did. Let's do it again. Okay.
Absolutely.
So when you fall in love with something or somebody, that's the genesis of all success. You know, it says in the Bible, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he?
Yes.
Well, if you're half-hearted about something, it isn't going to work. Everybody knows that. Half-hearted businessmen, half-hearted anything. Don't care if it's a baseball player. Half-hearted does not cut it. 3/4 hearted doesn't cut it. 90% hearted gets you 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's like if you need a full tank of gas to get from Salt Lake City, where I now live, by the way, I'm no longer in Colorado.
Oh, okay. Congratulations.
If it took me a full tank of gas to come to your neighborhood, and I only had 90% of a tank, I wouldn't get there. I don't care how great the car is or how big my desire is. If I don't have enough gas, I'm not going to get there.
That's right.
So I've learned how to find out for people, and this is what set me apart from all the other speakers and trainers out there. I've learned how to do the one thing that 97% of the people out there cannot do. 97% cannot do it. They cannot accurately identify what I call core desires. Yeah. Those things they want with all their heart. Not half-hearted, not 3/4 hearted, but all their heart. Mm-hmm. They will write down a bunch of things they say they want, and they won't get them because they're not wholeheartedly after them. For example, I know it's it's June, so I'm going to talk about New Year's resolutions. So here's a question for you, Randy. New Year's resolutions are made to be
broken.
Everybody knows that.
Right.
Why? Well, the word resolution comes from resolute. So you're supposed to be resolute about your New Year's resolutions. But 100% of the time they're not resolute about it.
Right.
It'd be nice to have it, they'd like to have it, but they're not willing to do what it takes. So I say, how many of your goals have you not gotten? And most people told me it was 8 out of 10 they did not get. So how do you feel about you? Well, Randy, I did that too. I did goal setting because I didn't know any different.
Sure.
When I started listening to the Zig Ziglars of the world, I did what they told me to do, and I failed miserably. 8 out of 10 of my goals didn't happen either. So what I did is throw away the goal list because it made me feel like I was a failure.
Yeah.
It actually was negative. And so many people tell me that they've tried the goal setting and they've done the affirmations, they've read self-help books, they got hundreds of them in their library and they still can't pay their bills. And so they do what I did. They assumed that they were broken, that they didn't have what it took because all these books can't be wrong.
Right.
And I'm saying, oh, yes, they can be.
Yeah.
It's not because you are stupid. Let me give you a perfect example. I asked the audience around the world, raise your hand if you've read the book Think and Grow Rich. Randy, you've read it, I bet you.
Many times. Well, actually, Jack, I got to just stop you for a second. I've never read that whole book. I read page 36 thousands of times, and I've given out many copies of that book to people, but I don't think I've ever sit down and read it from cover to cover, but I know what's in there.
I appreciate your honesty, man. That's one of the reasons I like you, is you tell it like it is, too. Well, here's the reaction I get. They brag that book is one of the best-selling books of all time.
Right.
Like 50 million copies.
Yeah.
I didn't even sell 1 million copies of mine, so it's really a good book, right?
Right.
And let's assume people read that, and half the audience will, I'll say, raise your hand if you've read the book, and half the audience, no matter where I go in the world, unless it's maybe China, they raised their hand and said, I've read the book. And I said, keep your hands up if you're rich.
Right.
all hands go down. So I say, well, then, if you're not rich and you read the book Think and Grow Rich, then you only got the think part down and the grow rich did not happen. So either you're stupid or the book's faulty. And it's not, neither one of those is true because the audience is not stupid. I've never met a stupid person. I've met ignorant people, but not stupid.
Right.
And so the book's faulty? No, that book is not faulty. 2 people I know of, 2 women, and one of them endorsed me, Mary Kay of Mary Kay Cosmetics. She gave me a strong endorsement about my book and my materials. She says that book is why she was able to build that company, Mary Kay Cosmetics, because Think and Grow Rich. And this other woman I know who was struggling, single mom, struggling so hard to make ends meet, she read Think and Grow Rich and became one of the top-selling real estate agents in her city and made millions. And she said that book taught her how to be like that. So we know the book has merit.
Absolutely.
But all hands go down when I say if you're rich. They're not rich.
Right.
So what's wrong? Is the book faulty? No. Are you stupid? No. Well, why didn't you apply what's there then? Hi, let's do the same thing with goal setting. Let's write down 20 things that you want this year or this week or this month. And let's do a little test at the end of the week or month or year and see how many you got. 2. On average, 2 out of 10. That means 80% did not happen.
Yes.
That's not okay. My principles and the things that I teach have a 100% success rate. 100% on one
100%.
condition.
Wow.
They got to learn how to find out what they want in their heart. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing of all, because when you know what you want, now all you got to do is find a teacher. There's only 2 things, Randy, that it takes to be successful. Only 2. And the first one is know what you want with all your heart. Not half-hearted, all your heart. And the second one is find a teacher, trainer, or a mentor that has done it successfully and let them teach you,
Yes.
even if you have to pay them to do it. Because you're smart enough to learn what anyone's willing to teach you, audience. That's not a question. So what do you want to learn? Well, I want to learn to make more money. Really? Let's find out if that's true. Let me give you an example. One woman came, and I do this like no other speaker on the planet does. I will teach the concepts to a live audience. Then I'll say, would you like to see it work? I'm the only speaker on the planet that can actually demonstrate that what I teach works. So I'll ask for volunteers. And this one woman came up in one of my audiences, and I asked 2 questions. So guys, if you're watching this, get these 2 questions burned into your brain. The first question was, what would you like to have that you're not getting? In other words, let's start with what you want that I can help you get. She said financial independence. She didn't even have to think about it. Financial independence. And I had just taught the audience on a way of measuring on a scale of 1 to 100. Hundreds are what you want with all your heart, and ones you don't even have them on the list. 50% will get you halfway there, half-hearted. The hundreds are what they have to be. So I had just taught the audience how to do that, and I said, now you want to see what it looks like. So this woman's helped me do that. So she said she wanted financial independence. And by the way, total stranger, I don't know her from Adam. And she said, financial independence. And I turned to the audience and said, is that 100? Nobody thought it was 100. Neither did I. And she said to the audience and to me, you don't know what you're talking about. Who wouldn't want financial independence? Of course I want financial independence. Now she's butting heads with me and even in the audience, because if you listen to your head, I tell the whole world, if you listen to your head, it'll lead you astray. You got to follow your heart. I believe your brain can learn to give your heart whatever it wants. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Yep.
So I then asked her the second question. Well, Mary, if you had financial independence, what would that give you that you don't have? Another instant answer. Oh, I'd travel. I just love travel. I turned to the audience and I said, measure that. Is that 100 on the scale? Nobody said it was 100. Everybody said it was like 60 or 70 or 80. It was high. Sure, she liked to travel, but it wasn't 100. So I said, that's not 100, Mary. She got mad. On stage, she said, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. You don't know me. It is 100. I love to travel. Button heads now. So I then asked the question. I call it the drill question. We're going to drill down to the truth. If you know the truth, it'll set you free. So I said, if you could travel, what would that give you that you don't have? She thought for a second. The other 2 answers were instant. She thought for a second. And then she said, peace. Oh, well, that's very different from the first 2 answers. I turned to the audience and I'll measure that. And it was really high. But it wasn't 100 yet, because if somebody says they want peace, Randy, that means they don't have it.
Right.
So they're wanting something that's yet not there, at least in one or more areas of their life. So now I'm on a right path. We're not after financial independence. We're not after travel. We're after peace. So I said, or asked, if you had peace, Mary, what would that give you that you don't have? This time, and this is really cool, I've learned that when people are trying to figure out an answer with their head, they look up, and she did that when she said peace. She's going, and then she looked at me and she said peace. This time when I said, if you had peace, what would that give you that you don't have? This time she looked down. I've learned that when people are looking into their heart, they look down. When they're looking at their head, they look up. Interesting.
Very interesting.
That's where our physicalness, our brain's up, right? So anyway, after about 15, 20 seconds of silence, which is, as you know, an eternity on stage with nothing happening.
Sure.
Finally, she looked up and tears are running down her cheeks. And she said, I'd be getting along with my husband. Oh. Would you like to learn how to get along with your husband? She said, I'd give anything. And she started sobbing. I turned to the audience and asked, can you see the difference between financial independence, travel, and peace? Now we got to the core desire, which is, I'd like to get along with my husband. So long story short, I said, what, are you guys okay? She said, no. We're talking divorce. I don't want a divorce, but we just can't seem to work it out. So I said, what if I give you an answer for that? She said, nothing will work. We've tried everything. I said, no, you haven't tried everything. She says, how the heck you know that? You don't know me. We've tried counseling. We've tried this. We've tried that. I said, no, you haven't tried everything. Mr. Zufelt, no offense, but we have. I said, you haven't tried me. And she said, oh. Sometimes it's hard to get into people's minds and hearts because they just resist. And she couldn't argue with that. Now remember, this is in front of an audience of several hundred people. So I said, you haven't tried me? She says, okay. What do you suggest? Why don't I tell you what to say to him? Go home right now, leave the stage, go home and say this to him. Is he home? Yes. All right, go home and say this to him. And then come back and tell us what happened. And I whispered it in her ear. I did not tell the audience because it was very personal. It wasn't sexual, it was just personal. And she said, into the microphone, if I tell him that, he'll just get mad. I said, well, now you have a decision to make. It's your choice. Are you going to follow my advice or keep doing it your way? Because your way doesn't work. And I'm telling you my way does. So she said, okay, I'll do it. So she left. And it was just before lunch, so she went out the back door, and I spent another 10 minutes wrapping things up, and then we broke for lunch. An hour later, we're all back together in the same room. I'm on stage, and she hadn't come back yet. So I'm starting to speak, and all of a sudden the back door's open, and she walks in, and I see her. I called her up to the stage immediately and said, Mary, come and tell us what happened. And Randy, she's beaming. Something's changed. She come up on stage, and I said, so tell us what happened. She said, it's a miracle. I said, what happened? We're all on needles and pins. We want to know what happened. She said, I told him what you said, and I thought he was just going to get mad, but he didn't. I said, well, what did he do? He started to cry. Wow. And then what happened? He said, I want that too. And then he did something that he and I have not done for months. I think it was like 6 or 8 months. We sat on the couch and we held each other and we just cried. And Jack, he said he'll do whatever you tell us to do so that we can stay married. Success is not because I'm brilliant, Randy, although I do know some stuff. It's because she had to follow the truth, and the truth set her free. And I was just a spotlight. I shine a spotlight on the truth. I'm a good spotlight.
You are an excellent spotlight. Well, Jack, that's got to be just the most incredible feeling in the world, whenever you can touch somebody at that level, at that depth, and have their life just changed in an incredibly positive way. It's just, what does that feel like for you?
It's a high. I call it a spiritual or emotional high.
Yeah.
And it never goes away. Even now, as I was telling the story, I've had emotions well up inside because my love for that woman and her husband and what they are creating, their family was saved. And I've been blessed to do that with hundreds of couples whose marriages were on the rocks.
My goodness. Well, let me stop you right there because I know we have people listening really from all over the world. Many couples, I'm sure, are experiencing the same thing that couple was experiencing. We have people out there that want to know how to be successful in their life and how to learn just a little bit of what you teach. And you have an easy way of getting that information to them. Can we do a little commercial for how that works?
A commercial?
Do you have a website that we can go to? I know you have courses, you have ways of getting that information to us.
Well, thank you for letting me do that. I'm going to tell everybody to go to DNAofsuccess.com.
So DNA of success, okay?
Of success.com.
Okay.
The DNA of our bodies is the building blocks of our cells, and it's what this body's made of. Well, the DNA of success is based on those two things. What do you want with all your heart? And remember, 97% of the people out there cannot identify that. So that's what I address in the first 3 chapters of my book and in the first 2 CDs of my audio program. How do you figure that out? And then once you know what that is, then I go into the other 6 areas of life and tell them family, financial, social, educational, and spiritual. How do you become successful in each one of those areas?
Yeah.
Family is couples and children. How do you be a good parent? How do you be a good husband and a good wife and be happily married, not just roommates with some side benefits?
Right.
So I created an audio program that was so popular it was featured in Success Magazine twice. I've been on the cover of 18 magazines. I don't know if you've seen those, but
I have seen many of them. Yes.
this message has gotten me, I don't know, some good exposure, but I don't want exposure. I want change in people's lives. I have plenty of exposure. I mean, to be on the Today Show is about as good as it gets, right?
That's about.
And then now I get to be on your show. That's great. And so however many thousands or millions of people are watching this, I hope that a whole bunch of them embrace the truth because it'll set them free and teach them how to be successful in any area, including this one. You recognize that sign?
I do.
I love that button. So what I teach in my books and CDs that are available at DNAofSuccess.com is how do you identify your core desire, and then once you've identified that, how do you find a teacher, trainer, mentor to help you learn how to be that? For example, my wife and I interviewed 25 couples in the first 3 years of our marriage whose marriages looked great from what we could see. So we would go ask them, how did you do that? And when we had 2 little children under the age of about, I think, 4, so they were noisy in church, and we saw a family in church that had 9 kids, and they sat quietly for an hour and a half. So we definitely sought them out and said, how do you do that? Because we have 2, and they don't sit quietly. How do you do that? And they told us 2 simple things. So we applied those 2 simple things, and it worked. It was a miracle. Now, same thing with making money. So many people say they do need and want more money. The number 1 cause of divorce in America is money. Couples fight about money more than anything else. Yeah. And so I'm on a path to help people make more money too. I can teach them how to do that. Because as you know, Randy, first of all, you got to get it here and connect those 2. You can want it with all your heart, but if you don't know how to get it here, it doesn't matter that you want a car. If you don't know how to get one, you're not going to get the car. Exactly. Same with making more money. So I focus on every area of life that matters, including and especially relationships and making money, because those 2 seem to be the most important in everybody's lives.
Absolutely. So Jack, expound a little bit, if you would, on this on core desires. That's interesting terminology you use for that. That something inside of us that we just can't stop ourselves with, right? Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, the word core is what we want to focus on. Everybody knows what desire is, but the word core, desire, that means it's a desire that pierces you to the very core of your being. Let me give you an example. If you asked me if I wanted to get in my car and drive to Las Vegas and come to your home tomorrow on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 is a core desire, I would say, no, that's a 2. I don't want to get in my car and drive to Las Vegas because I've got a wife that just had eye surgery, and it's too far, and I got other things to do. So it's not 100. It's considerably lower. Yes. But now, if you said, Jack, if you'll come out here, I'll write you $100,000 check. I'd say, Marcy, I'm getting you a caregiver. I'm going to have the kids come stay with you, and I'm going to go rent a car, and I'm going to Las Vegas. Because I have now something that's a core desire, which is a bigger reason to go there than just hang out in Las Vegas, right?
That's right.
That's no offense to you. I hope you understand that.
Well, we are in Vegas. You know, you can come and put a quarter in a machine and maybe get 100,000. That doesn't change.
Well, for example, we'd have a daughter down in Dallas, Texas, who is been trying so hard to have a baby. It's our youngest daughter, and she's now pregnant. And it doesn't matter what hour of the day or what day of the week, when she calls and says, I'm getting ready to have a baby, Marcy and I are getting on a plane heading to Dallas.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what the cost is per the hour. That's what a core desire looks like. So let me give you physical and emotional responses. Look at my face for a desire that's, let's say, a 50. If you said, hey, Jack, you want to go out to dinner tonight? And I'm buying, I would go like this. If it's not 100, I'd go, that's not 100. 100 looks like this. What? Yeah, okay, let's go. I really want that. If it's an absolute no way, Jose, if you said to me, I would like to go out to dinner with you and I'm going to take you to my favorite Italian restaurant. I don't like Italian food. So I would say, Italian, huh? On a scale from 1 to 100, that's a 2. I don't do 2s. Well, what about, and you have a steak place, and I say, okay, now you're an 80. I like steak.
And now if it's Thai food, it might be a 90, huh?
What?
If we make it Thai food, it might even be a 90.
That's right. Chinese food is 100.
Yeah.
But if I'm not well or I've got other commitments, it drops down to less than 100. Yep. It only becomes 100 when it's worth it. And the problem I find people having with this concept is the things they write down on a piece of paper they think they want with all their heart, or they wouldn't write it down. But half the time in fact, most of the time when I talk to them, I ask them, would you like to make more money? Yeah, well, that'd be nice. Well, that'd be nice isn't going to cut it. If I say to somebody, would you like to make more money? And they say, you tell me what to do. I'll do anything. As long as it's legal, I'll do it. That's the one that's going to make money. They just need to be shown some ways to do it.
Exactly.
I was like that. When I was a young man, I was broke. My wife made 3 times more money than me when I got married to her. She was a systems engineer for IBM, and I barely got out of high school. So when she stopped working to be a full-time mom, I mean working for money outside the home, it was all on me. I didn't know how to make money. I was a country bumpkin, raised on a Navajo Indian reservation. I was the only white boy in high school class, and the Indians beat me up a lot because of the color of my skin.
Wow.
I had no self-esteem. I had no confidence. I certainly didn't have any money. So now it's all on me to make money. Well, here's what it looks like. I have a core desire. I wanted to be financially free so badly. There was a man in my church who was old enough to be my dad. He was my age now, and he was rich, and I was poor. And so I went and asked him if he'd show me, and he said yes. He was recovering from back surgery, couldn't do the things he usually does, so he's having to sit at home a lot. So I went and sat by his bed and by his feet a lot, and he began to teach me things that I'd never even heard about, words I didn't even know existed, like syndication and investments, and I didn't know that world existed, but that's how he made billions of dollars.
Wow.
And I couldn't pay the rent next month. And he began to teach me what he did, and I went and copied it. And in the next 15 years, raised $23 million from investors because of what he taught me, and I bought all kinds of businesses, oil wells, oil and gas wells, coal mines in Kentucky. I financed several of the best-selling computer games in the history of the computer game industry. I used other people's money because he taught me how. And I was an ignorant person. I'm not stupid, but I was ignorant. And he showed me how not to be ignorant. And let me give you an example of how ignorance can get in our way. He said, Jack, you got to get a prospectus to put together. And I said, what's a prospectus? That's what you got to put together to raise money. I said, well, where do you get one of those? He said, you got to hire an attorney. And I said, hire? I have no money to hire anybody. I make $22,000 a year. I mean, this was back in the 80s, early 80s, right? And he said, Jack, calm down. I said, well, I can't calm down. I have no way of investing. And I said, how much is one of them there things cost? That's how ignorant I was. He said, you'll pay an attorney about $15,000. I said, I make $22,000 a year. There's no way I can afford an attorney. That's the head getting in the way. Ladies and gentlemen, do not let your head get in the way. The rest of the story will show you why. He basically patted me on the top and I said, Jack, calm down. He said, use OPM. I said, OPM? I'm not going to do drugs. And he said, no, not OPM like drugs. Other people's money. Really? What's that? And he showed me. Other people's money. So where do you get $15,000 when you don't have $15,000? Well, he said you get seed money. I said, seed money? You got to sell seeds? That was my paradigm. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite mentors was a guy named Stephen Covey, and he said, if you want to make small incremental improvements, change your behavior. But if you want to make quantum leaps in improvement, change your paradigm. Right. And a paradigm is the way you see something. And the way I saw seeds was seeds that you plant in the ground and you grow crops or you grow something. And he said, Jack, man, you don't know a lot of stuff. Seed money means you get an investor to give you the money up front so you can go get the money you need. Oh, really? People do that? And he said, yes. How do you do that? So then he taught me to do it. I went and did it, and the rest is history. And I became one of the most successful people ever. And I'm not saying that to boast. It just is an example of what can happen when you have nothing going for you except drive and desire, core desire.
Absolutely.
And I will add this. I found out that any two people can succeed at anything as long as one of them's God. I prayed as if it all depended on him, and I worked as if it all depended on me. And you put those two together, he sent people into my life that taught me what I needed to learn when it was time for me to learn it. And I got to meet so many powerful people throughout my life, like you, back when we were talking, doing business, and the things that we did together. It was exciting things. And now I've been all over the world teaching and training in 50 countries, my books in 15 languages. How is that possible? I'm a country bumpkin with no formal education.
Well, you are a legend to me, Jack. I'll tell you, you are an amazing guy, and you truly are a mentor to millions, and that's just got to be one of the greatest feelings in the world. There's got to be nothing like that.
Well, thank you for saying that, and I want to make sure that anyone who's watching or listening to this right now does not buy into the idea that I'm special and that I have something going for me that they don't have. All I want you to know, because a lot of people will say, I'm just a carpenter, or I'm just a housewife, or I'm just a, whatever the just is. And I want to change that paradigm right now. You are indeed just a human being.
Right.
If you have the capacity to learn and the desire to learn something, you can. I don't care if it's ballet or carpentry or race car driving or skydiving. If you want to learn it, you can.
Absolutely. Well,
not if. And so I'm not special. I'm just found out how to identify core desires, and now I'm teaching other people to do that, and I watch them go and become really successful.
Well, I know there's so many people that are watching us that, and most of us out there in the real world, we have things that we really want to accomplish with our life. A lot of us are, I'm sure there's people watching us right now that think they're at the end of their rope. They think there's no hope, and I just want everybody to know that you truly are one of the guys that can take what you've learned in your life and share that and teach people how to accomplish those things that they really do want. They're really their core desire. So once again, let's give that website where people need to go.
DNAofsuccess.com.
Okay, that's
www.dnaofsuccess.com.
Yeah,
this is my book. That's a bestseller. The DNA of Success. Can you read it? Is it backwards?
I can see it. A little bit shiny there with the lights, but there you go.
Okay.
DNA of Success.
There we go.
Perfect.
This book is a bestseller. It's in 15 languages, and that book and this audio program, these two things made me kind of famous because of the concepts I'm sharing with you now. And if you guys go there, you'll get my books and you can get my CDs, and I guarantee that you'll like them, so much so it's a money-back guarantee. If you don't like it, send it back. And here's the truth. I have a 2% return rate.
Wow.
2%.
Well, you can't beat a money-back guarantee. That's about as good as it gets.
You have no risk.
Yeah.
And I'm so convinced that if you'll do what I tell you to do and think the way I teach you to think and pay attention to your heart and become knowledgeable that you can learn anything, if you will buy into these concepts and then apply the things that I teach in my book and my CDs, where I get paid $15,000 to come speak for 2 hours or less, if you will teach those or apply those things in your life, success is a foregone conclusion for anybody that will apply it, because everybody's a human being and they have the ability to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the part they need to learn is not how-tos, but the why-tos first. Why? So goal setting doesn't work because everybody writes down the wrong things. Affirmations, that's like, I am successful. I hate affirmations because it's teaching people to lie.
Right.
I weigh 125 pounds when they really weigh 175 pounds. Or I drive a Lamborghini. No, you don't. You drive a Toyota. I make $200,000 a year. No, you don't. Well, they say that if you state it, your subconscious mind doesn't know whether it's true or not, so it buys it as if it is true. And I say, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what the subconscious buys or doesn't buy, but I do know this. My conscious mind knows it's a lie.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's making the decisions. So affirmations don't work, and neither does visualization. People sitting in a lotus position and looking up in the sky or closing their eyes and visualizing their success. I was told when I first learned about success stuff, if you want a new car, go to the car you want, the car dealership, sit in the car and smell the smell of the car and visualize yourself driving it. I did that. And 3 years later, I still didn't have that car. 5 years later, I still don't have that car. But I breathed it, and I touched it, and I stroked it, and I hugged it, I did everything they told me to visualize it, and it didn't work. Well, what about reading self-help books? And I have one. It's a bestseller. In fact, I have two. This one is fairly new, but look who's on the cover of it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Jack Canfield and Brian Tracy.
I see that.
They authored this with me. I didn't author with them. They authored it with me. So now I have self-help books, and I'm telling everybody, raise your hand if you have at least one self-help book in your library. Every hand goes up. So I keep going up. Keep your hand up if you have 50, 100, 500. One woman in
I
Australia.
gotta raise my hand.
Most
Maybe
people
thousands.
have
I might have
average
a few thousand of them. Yeah.
One woman in Australia said she had 1,500 of them.
Oh, sure. I could imagine.
And I when somebody says they have 100 or 200, I say, well, why are you at my seminar? You should not need anything I have to give because you've read all the books. So I've learned that reading self-help books is a waste of time unless what's in them is going to help you get a core desire. And my book is 100% about how to identify what you want with all your heart. The rest is easy.
Yeah.
Chapter 3 teaches you how to find a teacher, and then I take that concept of finding what you want in every area of life, finding a teacher in that area. Like if you want to be a black belt in karate, you got to learn from a black belt.
Right.
You can't learn from a blue belt or a green belt. It has to be a black belt.
Right.
Now, I think I want to be a black belt. Doesn't make you a black belt. I used to run a karate studio because I have a black belt in karate. And I had people come in and they would sign up and pay $30 a month, and 2 or 3 months later they quit coming, but they keep sending checks. Or I would teach them a kick or a punch, and I say, now I've just taught you this kick or I just taught you this punch. This week, before we meet again next week, I want you to go home and do that kick or that punch 1,000 times before I see you again next week. And here's a core desire at 50. 1,000 times? Like, what? That person never became a black belt. But the ones who did, when I said 1,000, they'd go, really? 1,000? What if I did 2,000?
Right.
That's the one that's going to be a black belt, right? And it applies in every area of our life, from making money to being happily married and being great parents and enjoying your job or finding the job that you do want or working for yourself. What I'm teaching is universal. It fits men and women of all ages in any area of life. So the most important thing about my book, my CD program, is how to identify your core desires, and then how do you find a teacher that will spend the time and give you the knowledge that they have on how to get there.
Yeah,
like my mentor
there's
did.
an old saying, you have to ASK to GET, and I'm sure that's a part of your, once you find the teacher, you want to just ask them, right? And
Yep.
that's hard for a lot of us to do. How do you do that with ease?
Well, I'm a believer, as you are, in the Christian principles.
Yes.
And in the Bible it says, ask and you shall receive.
Right.
Well, you can't get more blunt than that. Ask what? Well, ask for money. Who are you going to ask? Well, you can ask God if you want, but he's then going to tell you to go to work.
That's right.
and or find some career path that'll give that to you, because nobody's going to have a golden pot of money show up at their doorstep, right?
That's right. That's right.
So ask is hard because it makes people feel two things. One, it makes them feel stupid. They don't want anybody to think they're stupid.
Right.
By the way, nobody is stupid. You're not stupid. Nobody's stupid. You can be ignorant, but not stupid.
Yeah, there is a big difference there for sure.
And I was totally ignorant, but I wasn't stupid. I've never been to a college a day in my life, so I must be stupid. The only degree I ever got, I tell everybody, is the third degree from my father.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know how
daily
that works.
affirmations, visualizations, writing down goals, and self-help books. And then the last one is motivational speakers. I won't let anybody introduce me as one, because I ask people all the time, have you listened to a motivational speaker in the last year or two? A lot of people will say yes to that.
Uh-huh.
So tell me what's different. How long did you stay motivated? I actually asked that question. Here's the answer I got. 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks. So the point of a motivational speaker is this. There's nothing wrong. I mean, some of them teach bad stuff, but most of them teach pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And let's assume it is good stuff.
Uh-huh.
But they can motivate you because they're good, and when they leave, they take the motivation with them.
That's right. Yeah. it
And if it's
changes.
not motivation from within, it's gone.
You're absolutely right. Well, Jack, we're about out of time. We have about 20 seconds left. I want to say thank you to you. This has been such a delight. I could listen to you for hours and hours. As a matter of fact, if we get your course, we can do that, right? So once
Yes.
again, that's DNAofsuccess.com. And you can get Jack's course, and I recommend that to everybody. So, Jack, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you
Pleasure.
soon. We'll see you next week, same time, same station. Bye-bye, everybody.